So here you are, Marcel, looking at your big glass.
Yes. And the more I look at it, the more I like it. Like the breaks, the way they come, the cracks. You remember how it happened in 1926?
Yes, I remember hearing.
In Brooklyn, they put the two panes on top of one another on a truck, flat, not knowing what they were carrying, and bouncing for 60 miles in Connecticut. So that's what happened. But the more I look at it, the more I like the cracks because they're not like shattered glass. They have a shape. There's a symmetry in the cracking. The two crackings are symmetrically disposed, and there's more, almost an intention there, an extra curious intention that I'm not responsible for, ready-made intention, in other words, that I respect and love.
But it was one of your biggest undertakings, most ambitious.
By far it is, and I worked 8 years on it, and it is not finished.
No.
And I don't know whether it will ever be finished, but now I'll show you some finished things. Come along.
There's the chocolate grinder.
Yes, one of the two I made, and the third one is on the glass itself.
You had several versions of the new Descending a Staircase, too, didn't you?
Yes, three, but this one is the first one that was shown at the Armory show.
The one the newspaper man called an explosion in a shingle factory.
Yes, yes. That was a great line he put out.
Succès de scandale, now.
Succès de scandale, yes. And this is a boxing match, a drawing that I never use, in fact. It's for the glass. I never used it. I felt it was not quite what I wanted.
It must be a great satisfaction to you to have so many versions and so much of your work in one collection, such as you find here in the Philadelphia Museum.
Oh, wonderful it is. You know, it's just, I always felt that showing one painting in one place and another place is just like amputating one finger each time, or a leg. Here I feel at home, my house, and I've never had such really a feeling of complete satisfaction.
Well, I can understand how an artist would feel about that. Well, Marcel, these don't seem your earliest work.
No. The earliest is this one in the corner, the church. That was done in my village in 1902.
How old were you?
I was 15 then. And then I went on about some more of that period, but they're not here.
It's rather impressionist, isn't it? Is that what was the vogue?
Yeah, well, it was not the vogue, it was the only thing we talked about, you see. I mean, it was
advanced,
yeah,
even
it was
then.
advanced, and yet, when you see these two, which are later, already Impressionism has gone down in vogue. So
they're more structural.
They're more structural, and Cézanne has been recognized then, and Cézanne is the great man, and I was influenced by Cézanne in those two paintings, you see. This is my two brothers playing chess in the garden, and this is my father.
Well, the whole family were painters, your sister and brother?
No, one sister paints, yes, but especially my brother, Bidon, paints.
But did they bring you into this Cézanne impressionist?
No, it was all on my own. No.
Just in the air?
In the air, especially, yes. Yeah. And my father was very nice about it. In fact, it was very difficult then as it is now to become a painter on your own. How can you expect to live, etc., etc. So he was a good man.
He looks patient to have set that portrait up.
Yeah.
There seems to be quite a step between this and the nude Descending a Staircase.
Yes, the nude was 2 years later.
1912.
1912. And it was after these that I decided that no more obvious influences as I had before. I wanted to at least be living in my day, and my day was Cubism. See, 1910, 11, 12, Cubism was in his childhood, and the approach was so different from the previous movements that I was very much attracted toward it. And I began being a cubist painter, and finally I came to the nude.
The nude, however, has something of movement in it that the Cubists didn't seem to be interested in.
You see, there was also Futurism at that time.
The Italians.
Italian Futurism. But I didn't know about it.
You weren't in Munich. You were in
Italy, no. I never knew any. You see, the famous Futurist show in Paris was in January 1912, when I was painting this. So I hadn't seen it. There's a coincidence there. Of course, you might say it was in the air. But I didn't actually know the Futurists, but I did this painting with the idea of using movement as one of the elements in it. And next year, the following year, I sent it at the invitation of American painters, Davis and Walter Parr.
It was an event in American painting history,
I know, but it's only now, even now that we know it, 40 years later. At the moment, it might have been an explosion of a success for a week or 10 days and finished in a feu de paille.
Yes.
But it went on. Then that was not enough for me. I went on with the idea that, all right, I had done what I could with Cubism, in my opinion, and immediately wanted to change. This idea of changing, not repeating myself. I could have done 10 nudes probably at that time if I wanted to. I decided not to go that. That will come into another discussion probably about why I did that. But I went immediately into another formula, which is the formula of the chocolate grinder. I was in Rouen, in one of the shops, showing through the glass an actual chocolate grinder. That a manufacturer of chocolate showed his chocolate grinder in the window. And it amused me so much that I took it as a point of departure.
But what was different in your point of view here than in any normal still life of a chocolate grinder? Was it a mechanical interest?
Yes,
Is that
of course, the mechanical side of it influenced me then, or at least that was also the point of departure of a new form of technique. I couldn't go into the haphazard drawing or the folds or the painting, the splashing of the paint. I wanted to go back to a completely dry drawing, dry conception of art. And the mechanical drawing, for me, was the best form of that dry form of art.
accuracy?
Accuracy, precision, nothing of that handiwork.
Chance.
Chance, well,
Values.
chance is another question, but I mean, in that actual drawing, the precision that could not be even liked by all the people who liked Impressionism and all this. It was a new decision on my part to get away from even Cubism then, after a year of that. So this was the real beginning for the large glass.
At the time you did this, was there no notion of what was coming?
No, but I was already beginning to make a definite plan, complete plan for the whole glass. And the chocolate grinder was one point, and then came the sliding machine on the side. All this was supposed and was drawn in 13 and 14 on paper, planned out. Because it was based on a perspective view, meaning complete control of the placement of things. It couldn't be haphazardly or changed afterwards. It had to go through according to plan, so to speak.
Well, I imagine you feel that the chocolate grinder heralded something in your work, something of that break you've often told me about.
Yes, it was really a very important moment in my life. I had to make great decisions then. And I made a great one by saying to myself, no more painting, you'll get a job. And I looked for a job in order to get enough time to paint for myself. And I got a job as a librarian in Paris in the Bibliothèque Sainte-Geneviève. And this was a wonderful job because you had so many hours free in the day.
You mean painting for yourself, not merely to please other people?
Exactly. And that, of course, led me to this conclusion that you either are a professional painter or not. There are two kinds of artists. The artist that deals with society, is integrated in society, and the other artist, the completely freelance artist who has nothing to do with it, no bonds.
I mean the man in society has to make certain compromises to please them and to live. Is that why you took the job?
Exactly. Exactly. I didn't want to depend on my painting for a living.
Well, didn't you have a certain income from your father?
Enough to live, if you want. Yes, enough to. My father was very nice about that. He always helped us long.
All three of you?
Yes. Long after we were of age, I mean, as long. And he had a very funny idea. He said, all right, I'll give you what you want, but don't forget we have 3 sisters and 3 brothers. So whatever you get during my lifetime, you'll never get after my death as an inheritance. So all these sums that he had added carefully were subtracted from what we got after his death. You see, it was a very amusing French idea.
Well, at least it helped you over the bumps in the beginning.
Wonderfully, sure.
Well, Marcel, when you speak of your disregard for the broad public and say you're painting for yourself, wouldn't you accept that as painting for the ideal public, for a public which should appreciate you if they would only make the effort to?
Yes, indeed. It's only a way of putting myself in the right position for that ideal public, because the danger is to please an immediate public, the immediate public that comes around you and takes you in and accepts you and gives you success and everything. Instead of that, if you wait for your public that should come 50 years, 100 years after your death, that's the right public I want.
It's a rather ascetic attitude. I can see that I don't think you ever felt that a person was justified in taking an ivory tower attitude, disregarding the intelligent and sympathetic public.
No ivory tower in my idea at all.
I remember a line in a piece by Henri Pierre Rocher in which he referred to you as saying that you were always careful to find a way to contradict yourself. I imagine by this you mean you were trying to avoid repeating yourself. Is this right?
You see, the danger is to lead yourself into a form of taste. Even in the chocolate grinder, that
taste then is something that repeats something else that has been accepted. Is that what you mean?
It's a habit. It's a repetition of the same thing long enough to become taste. If you cut it shortly, I mean, after you've done it, then it stays as a thing by itself. But if it's repeated a number of times, it becomes a taste.
And good taste is what's approved, and bad taste is the same repetition of what's not approved. Is that what you mean?
Yes, good or bad is of no importance, because it's always good for one and bad for the other. The quality is not important, but it's taste anyway.
Well, how did you find a way to get away from good or bad taste in your personal expression?
I know in that technique of the mechanical technique there was no taste possible. I mean, really, a mechanical drawing has no taste in it.
Because it was divorced from the conventional expression in the painting.
At least I thought so at that time, and I do think today the same way.